Welcome back. Hopefully you're feeling excited about writing, producing, and editing your big talk. This is an opportunity for you to truly shine as yourself. And once this video is done, you'll have an amazing piece of promotional media to share via all your social networks. In this lesson, I'm going to help you prepare for your video shoot by returning to the lesson of perspective to help you get the appropriate camera angles for each of the supplied backgrounds and how to best use your teleprompter. You are also going to need to write your 5-minute speech for the scene, and as MAJIK Brad suggests, rather than spending the next 5 weeks trying to perfect your talk, we want you to spend no more than 5 hours scripting it and no more than 2 hours putting your slides together. Remember, this is less about the presentation and more about you learning how to pull these magic tricks off so that you can apply them to your real e-course lessons down the road. And if you're finding it challenging to get the creative juices flowing, there are some helpful questions in your MAJIK kit that will help you get the ball rolling. So let's jump on in.
Okay, welcome back. Here we are, Lesson 2, Act 3. Now, before we get started into compiling our shots and start to talk about that, one thing I forgot to mention in Lesson 1 was with our background here, you can see there's some black on the outsides. Now, that's not going to necessarily be too much of a problem, but what we can do is with our scale, like, so if I scaled this all the way, doesn't give us much room now because the picture itself is not this 16:9 ratio. It's probably more of a 4:3 ratio, and that kind of limits us a little bit to being able to have the top and bottom as well as the sides. Yet if we come in here to our scale, click Uniform Scale, and that essentially deselects the height and width being connected as one. And now we can actually take our width and expand that separately. So it stretches the image. And there we go. Now we've got a nice wide image and no one will know the difference. I find compositing the backgrounds one of the first and foremost important steps in green screen magic. It's really difficult to get in front of the camera and act, so to speak, and present your lesson in a way that connects you to whatever's behind you without knowing what is actually behind you in the first place. Big part of it is, again, understanding the sight lines that are in your background and understanding where the horizon line is in your background so you can get your camera in the right position, understand where your lighting needs to be. All these things begin with the background. So it took me a while to finally get to this part. We were looking at many different stages, and once we found this one, we knew this is where we wanted to go, put it together, and now this is where we get to start discussing all those things like lighting, camera, slides, all that sort of jazz. In this shot, you're essentially presenting to an audience, which would be on down here somewhere. And if you do a little homework watching some TED Talks on what that looks like, it's not a bad idea just to get the flow and feel of where sight lines tend to be. And you can use your imagination when you're up there in front of your camera and doing your thing. It's good to take for a moment just to close your eyes, imagine the world, imagine the background that you're in, and hold that space when you're presenting. That's going to make a huge difference in connecting you to your background. And so this is what I did with Brad. I presented the background, told him where we are, showed it to him, and he got the feel for it. Then we were able to get in front of the camera and start presenting what he had already written as his script. So hopefully you're at that stage. If you haven't already written your script and your presentation, then do that. That's a very important step in this. I find script writing for these sort of videos and lessons is super important to be able to focus what you want to say and present it in a way that's clear, concise, and get to the point. So now that we do have the background, and I'm assuming you have your script written, now you can go ahead and shoot your shot. Let's look at what the lighting is. You can imagine that it's going to be somewhat of a theater presentation with lots of bright lights shining forward onto you. So we're going to want to have a nice bright shot. Let's pull in Brad's image. Great. So you can see here the lighting is very forward onto him. I've got a couple of these small lights here that we got at the hardware store shining down onto his legs, so we're getting a more full image. Without those, we're going to have a lot more shadowing down on his feet, so that's why we ended up purchasing these for maybe $20 each. The lights in them are important. We have the daylight colored bulbs that would normally come with these soft boxes as well. We have, you can see here, the large soft box would just be off the scene. We have our microphone coming off of here too, just out of the scene. And yeah, that's what we're working with. So when we add our key, then we have something nice to work with. We've got a lot of extras going on the sides, so we'll want to crop that up. But when we do place them on here, it's starting to look pretty good. Let's jump over to the finished result. And there we go. You can see it looks pretty darn good. So the natural shadow that comes in the scene from your own lights onto the green will actually be added onto the floor, create a little bit of a realistic look. So that's normal, except you can see here with the fabric, it's got a little bit of a wrinkle to it. Got to be careful with that. Those wrinkles will show. Since we're standing on a carpet, it looks like the carpet's just a little wrinkly, but if you're on concrete or something that doesn't wrinkle, that will kind of be a giveaway that you're standing on a green screen. So just be careful with that. I think that's one reason why more professional studios paint the floor and the ceiling. Everything is just nice and green. Good. And so setting up your lights to kind of give you that feel. But since we don't have any direct source of light, you're safe to kind of do it as you see fit. There's no other shadows here giving away light source. Just a nice kind of even light onto you. And so for camera, it's coming across pretty much, you know, at head level. And then we'll get into eventually these movements, which make it look like the camera's moving in on some sort of cool telescopic arm, which is kind of nice. And talking about this here, so we've got some close-ups as well. Now there's two ways to go about doing this. You can have two cameras, having one lens nice and long, the other one up close. Or what we did, since at this point we weren't using two cameras, that was just a recent purchase, is we brought in, let's see here, here's his other shot. And this is the same camera, and he just read the script a second time with the camera zoomed in. Now, you could go ahead and take this shot and zoom in to get something similar. But if you look at the difference, the colors are a little off, that's okay. But you can see this is a much clearer. We're going to get a much clearer focus than as if we zoom in. It's going to be a little bit on the fuzzy side. So you can get away with just zooming your single shot in and doing it that way, right? But I recommend just doing it twice. And that's how we're going to play with that. If you have a second camera, then you know that this is going to be exactly the same performance, which will make things a lot easier. And that's what now we're working with, 2 cameras, which is a lot of fun. And then while you're at it, if you want to go above and beyond to create the feel that you are in front of an audience and that there's multiple cameras from all angles in this scene, then we have this other background. Where do I have it? This audience background here. And we're going to be placing you in front of that as well. So we've got now, to make that look real, you can see here when we come into that space, it looks like as if we just took our camera and swung it around and facing behind. Same sort of lights in front and just facing behind. Now it's not that simple. As we go forward, you can see here we actually had to move our lights, our microphone, and then you can see over here this is the teleprompter that we have, and I'm actually holding here. And so I'm helping scroll through his speech so he can read that to keep everything nice and smooth. And because it is a scripted scene, then word for word is going to be the same between that one and this one. The only thing you have to watch out for is hand positions. And when you shoot, he might have his hands up when he finishes one part of that speech, but in another take, his hands might be together. And so these are moments that can kind of be giveaways that this isn't one nice live shot. So there's one of the benefits of having multiple cameras, and essentially live will always be best with multiple cameras, because as he's opening his hands here, then his hands are open. So what we'll do is, between the shots, try to keep only so many hand positions. Keep everything kind of normal. Don't try to move too much, because it will help you in the long run putting this together. And yeah, we get lucky sometimes, and we find those moments where it's like, oh, that looks pretty good. Let me work that and put that together. So rehearsing is often a really good option too, that you kind of just get an idea with your speech. You know, spend a week just kind of going through your speech maybe, but don't take too much time. The idea is really more about the video skills than it is about getting this scene perfect. But I don't blame you if you want to get this perfect too. So now pretty much this is just time to get in front of the camera. Have your speech rehearsed. Have a friend come over to help you with this. And see if you can get the third shot as well to work with. It's not necessary, but major bonus points if you do.